Negroes do not tell them this either. Now,
Mr. Baldwin, what I'm trying to find out is whether the Muslim movement does hate me or not, and whether it proposes to use force to satisfy its hatred.
It is not.
I don't seem to be able to get any place in finding it out.
No, it is not important to know whether the Muslim movement...
I'll clear that up.
It is not important to know whether the Muslim movement hates you or not. That is not at all the question. They may or they may not. That's irrelevant. But the point is that most Negroes, most black people do not trust white people, and most Negroes hate white people. And as long as this country, as the white people in this country, use all the fantastic evasions which they do use to protect themselves against this knowledge, there's one thing every white man in this country knows. He knows he wouldn't like to be black here, no matter what else he doesn't know. No. And all the liberal movements that I've ever been associated with, and all the liberals, almost all the liberals, and the exceptions only prove the rule, all the liberals that I've ever known are working day and night, and not only in terms of not letting a Negro live next door to them, but in terms of their own minds, their own consciences, their own way of life, but to protect themselves against the crime for which they know they are responsible. Now, I cannot, and this is what is important about this, I think, and the future of the country depends on it. If I, as a black man, must be responsible every day of my life for something I did not do either, if I must pay for the history written in the color of my skin, so much white people, the great pain about being a Negro here is that you can never get across to a white person the fact that you are as human as he is, and that he is losing his humanity insofar as he denies you yours. This is the great advantage of the Muslim movement. It doesn't matter whether they hate you or not. But one's got to deal with the record.
Well, I marvel sometimes that if, as is said by the Muslim speakers, that the white man has hated the Negro since he has been on earth, why has the white man done so much to help the Negro? For example, I noticed they abolished the slave trade in Africa and from here to Africa, and I don't know when any of the Muslim states have done that. They've set up schools and clinics and hospitals and asylums and all in colleges throughout all black Africa. I don't know that anybody can point out one Muslim college or university south of Egypt and Morocco in Africa for the education of black people. Now, these things have been done, and it doesn't seem to me that this is the action of people that hate a whole people. Of course, there are white people who hate Negroes, but I don't see any reason or justification for exaggerating the situation.
May I, Mr. Baldwin, pardon me, may I come back just for purposes of clarification to try to get Mr. X's comment on the statements. First, that his movement stands for black supremacy. Secondly, that it intends to bring it about by the use of force.
If by supremacy you mean rule, the fact that the white man has been ruling for so long, which is white supremacy, and most of your white historians and even your current politicians and diplomats admit that the trouble that the white world is in today is losing out all over the world. Britain used to rule an empire so large she bragged about the sun would never set on it. But today, when the sun rises, you can't hardly find Britain.
Mr. X, we're talking about what you want to happen. And your leader is quoted in Mr. Lincoln's book as saying that he wants to use an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and he wants to end white rule in the U.S. He wants to overthrow it, to use the quotation.
If Mr. Lincoln said that, Mr. Lincoln is 1,000% wrong.
What does he mean by the quotation, then? We must take things into our own hands. What does it matter if 10 million of us die? There will be 7 million of us left.
If you have men, if you have crimes, such as those that were committed against Emmett Till, and the government itself could go into Mississippi and find the exact culprits who committed the crime, or the type of crime that was committed against Mac Parker, and again the government agents go in there and find the culprits who were guilty of murdering Mac Parker, and then turn around and the government admit that it is not able to bring those murderers to justice, I think that it would be insane on the part of any man to deny the family of Mac Parker or the family of Emmett Till the right to come together and defend themselves, since the government admits that it can't. It is helpless to defend them.
I take that to be your justification of the use of violence by Negroes.
If America is justified in retaliating against Japan when Japan strikes her, or retaliating against Germany when Germany strikes her, or retaliating against any other country to defend herself from attack, I think that America has reached the point of insanity to think that the world would look upon the black people here in America as being wrong if they took a stand to defend themselves against the crime that the white man is committing against us here day and night.
I don't see why you don't answer the man's question. Are you for force or are you against force? If you're for force and use of force, then that's sedition. Why don't you level on the thing instead of curving all
Is it? Wait a moment. No. I didn't come. You can't put words in my mouth.
I know it all the time.
But I want to get that point right there straight.
Yeah,
since it is Islam and the Muslims who are being discussed here, and it is Islam and the Muslims who are under fire, I think that it is only right to expect me to give you my answer, not someone else's answer, because this is what primarily has been done here in America. Everyone else speaks for the Muslims, and they're not allowed to speak for themselves. Now, you don't put a yes or no answer today in the mouth of any black man, other perhaps than Mr. Scholar.
Nobody speaking. That's the same.
You're correct.
Pardon me, Mr. Lincoln, would you like to comment on this or any related point as to what the real program is? Is it a program of force or not?
From what I have been able to determine, the Muslims are very careful not to talk about the use of force. Now, in the early days of my research on the movement, it was stated among Muslims that they looked forward to a sort of day of Armageddon that was to take place around 1970, when the white man in America would be overthrown, and when the black man would come into what was considered to be...
I challenge this, and I think you're 1,000% wrong.
Pardon me, Mr. X, I didn't finish. Said you didn't comment on it. Yeah.
But at the same time, Mr. X, it is true that the Muslims have avoided, as I said, any direct reference to the use of force. And in more recent times, the Muslims have tended to say that Allah himself, am I correct?
No, you're wrong in the first part, and you're right in the last part. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has never taught us that we ourselves are going to fight the white man. But he has taught us that there will come a day when God will destroy evil from the face of this earth. God will do it. He has never... Proof of the matter is we never carry arms. We're probably the only black group in America, as large as we are, who can absolutely say at a meeting that we have that not one man in that audience has arms in his pocket or alcohol in his head. And I think that it's absurd to stand around and accuse the black Muslims of advocating violence when we've never been during the entire 30 years that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching here in America, we have never been involved in any aggressive acts against any white people. And any time the violence has occurred, and even the newspapers have to admit this, and the police, whenever we've been involved in any violence, it has always been at a time when we ourselves were attacked, because we 1,000% don't believe that a man should turn the other cheek when there's knots on his cheek already, and the man is going to put some more knots on his cheek. We can't see that.
Gentlemen, before the time runs, yes, go ahead.
May I respond to Mr. X's statement? You talk about putting words in people's mouths. Now, I have pointed out very clearly in my book that the Muslims do not initiate aggression. I have pointed out very clearly that they do not carry arms. I have pointed out clearly that they are taught not to initiate aggression, and that they must not even have so much as a fingernail file in their pockets.
Correct. And always obey the law.
Always obey the law. As a matter of fact,
you're confusing me. It's you who wrote the description of the fruit of Islam, the secret army, and said they received training in judo, military, and then military drill and the use of knives and blackjacks. The fruit of Islam looks forward to playing a heroic role in the impending battle of Armageddon.
Let me finish.
Mr. Lincoln, page 201.
Let me finish. I said that they do not commit aggression. So far, what they're going to do in the future, nobody knows except the Muslims themselves.
Where does the blackjacks and the knives come in with Muslims?
Well,
they search for them.
I beg your pardon, Scott?
They search for them.
Everyone who comes into the mosque that are set up here in America under the spiritual guidance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is checked thoroughly, because we're absolutely against any kind of aggression or weapons that one can use in aggression.
Well, if there's such peace lovers, then why do you have to search them? That's the question that comes to my mind.
Mr. Scholar, the thing that I can't understand on this violence and hate business, the Rockwell, this so-called Nazi who wanted to give a speech down in the village.